Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Firstly and foremost, if you had a great game week, then congratulations to you. Enjoy that big green arrow. Secondly, I think there are some important things to discuss. Hence, there will be a dedicated section in which to do so following the introduction. And thirdly, in terms of what the video contains, the usual game week review and then transfer plans. If you do enjoy it, then a like on the video would be magnificent. Equally, as would a subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Without anything else needing to be said, let's hop into it. As mentioned in the introduction, I do think there are some important things to discuss. One being the rank drop, and two, the decision-making processes behind this particular game week. Now, to start with the latter, I could usually do that fairly easily. However, today, unlike most weekends, where I always usually try to make sure I watch as much football as possible, particularly at home on a Sunday, just so that I can come here and record a video for you guys with an informed opinion. But for this particular Sunday, I had prior commitments, and as such, all I've seen is Bowen score his goal. I saw that on X, and Raya kick the ball for like 20 seconds into the Liverpool half, and that is all I've seen. I purposely didn't go and watch the highlights because I didn't want a 3-minute video to skew my perspective on what the game was actually. So I will catch up in solving your problems, and then in terms of the decision-making processes for this game week, we can go and discuss them in everything you need to know, should that be relevant. In terms of like the rank drop overall, I thought it was important to discuss because it's certainly a factor when it comes to content creation, at least for some. And it hasn't been great. It hasn't been great for a while. I think, obviously, from 31, mainly, that's where the big drop started. I think the mistake I made, the biggest one, was Jacob Murphy. And I think had I gone for him, the ranks maybe at 80k, because it cost me about 40 points. Then there are other decisions that I guess you can discuss that I'm more open-minded about. I think Murphy was absolutely a mistake. But things like my selection on free at 34 or like Mateta triple captain, I can see both sides to the coin on that. I think that's to be reflected upon, not necessarily right or wrong. Would I say that like how I've played is necessarily warranting of such a big rank drop? Honestly, no. But I think whatever I get at least is fair. That's just how I view it, and I take full responsibility for that. I don't think every call has been great. I think there's certainly been some suboptimal ones. Maybe like, for example, the Aston Villa defense last game week being one that maybe I could have done better on. But I thought it was fair for me to at least, and important for me to at least address that, because I do come here with some sense of an idea that I have some idea as to what I'm talking about. And then just in general, from like the drop from, I guess, 19k and 23, so what it is now. Again, similar line of thinking. I think I've made some suboptimal decisions to warrant this type of a rank drop. Not necessarily, but again, take full responsibility for it. And we shall see how things pan out, I guess, this season and next season and the following season after that. So yeah, like I said, just thought it was important to address, and now we can hop into the video. To add one thing from last slide, if I'm being completely honest, I think I've played well enough whereby I'm actually quite happy with my performance and my decisions overall this season, and whatever the rank is, it is, and you can interpret that as you please. But for me personally, like I said, take full responsibility for it, but overall I'm quite happy the way I played. Made some mistakes, but overall quite happy. Moving on to the defensive unit, I would say that it is very difficult again for me to assess what has gone on here, because like I mentioned in the previous section, just haven't been able to watch football on Sunday. And Raya played today, Kiwior played today, Neko played today, Areola played today, Munoz played today. Now, in terms of concept, I can discuss him a little bit. Quite happy with the decision that I made to keep him on the bench. Quite happy as well that he got a yellow card and I don't have to look at an 8-pointer, but rather a 5. I think Bournemouth probably deserves to score, considering their dominance of sorts in the second half, particularly after that red card happened. And how Jebison doesn't score in that last minute, I don't know. I really think he should put that away. So that's that. But like 5 points isn't too bad to like win or lose. Almost a draw for both parties. More so a win for the guys who started him, but you know what I mean. Munoz, I mean, that 11 points is there, right? Like I said, I haven't watched it, so I can't comment too much. Guardiola, obviously happy with the decision. I did actually ponder benching Neko, and it sounds strange considering he has Leicester and easy to say in hindsight, but I did ponder it Friday night, but eventually just didn't go through it just because of how things have been going for Forest, and on the contrary, how things have been going for Leicester. Quite decent, as at least of last game week, and then double Arsenal defense concedes, and that doesn't work out. I heard in the second half they were actually all right. They just started the game really poorly. Is what it is, and we can move on to the midfield now because, like I said, I don't add too much there without having watched it. Moving on to the midfield. Now, this was a bit of a mixed bag because Ismail Assar pops up with 6 points, and I think justified my decision. Great. And he could have had more if it wasn't for that disallowed goal, which heard people I saw people on the timeline were not too happy about. Bowen, this guy has been such a gem for me this season. Pops up with another goal, no bonus, and he hasn't been great on the bonus recently, but nonetheless, pops up, gets the goal, gets me 8 points, and what a brilliant man. Highest scorer of the game week. And again, he saves me. Mbeumo, again, the fact that I brought him in for Salah, and this wasn't for a hit, this was just a great swap. Considering I captained him and he was like, my joint second highest scorer, again, really happy with at least the decision to bring him in. And the outcome could have been better. I mean, Alex Palmer made one really good save of him. He definitely should have had one penalty at least. How they didn't give the second Nathan Collins one when they looked at it for that long, I don't know, but is what it is. Overall, pleased with that. Now, in terms of the big boys, I mean, Palmer didn't exactly have it too easy. I heard that Newcastle did a really good job going 5 at the back early on. Obviously, Jackson gets sent off, limits Chelsea's transitional threat and his ability to generate assists as such. So that's not great. So we'll have to reflect on that. And Saka, I don't think he had too much either. One other thing to discuss here is Morgan Rogers. Now, I'm quite happy with the decision I made. You'll see in transfers, maybe I'll bring him back in because it seems actually in quite a strong position because I made one more transfer than I was expecting to, which some of you will know and some of you shall see in the next section. But he got 6 points and that would have been very useful in this and it would have meant that I'm 8 points up on the Palmer move. But considering I watched nearly all of the game, he barely had anything. And even the assist was just an outstanding finish from Watkins. And whatever the XA of that is usually, at least taking into account the quality of that finish, I'm not sure if the model can do that, then I would think it would be very, very low because there's not many forwards, including Ollie Watkins, who would score that particularly often. I think if you gave Watkins that chance 10 times, I'm not sure he scores it even half right. It was just that good of a finish. So fair to play to him, but in terms of the decision, quite happy. And now we can move on to the forwards, which was not great for pretty much anyone unless you owned Chris Wood. Not good for anyone unless you own Chris Wood. We've said that many a time this season, especially at the start and in the middle. Earlier stage of the middle. I mean, Isak's there, whatever, 2.0. I mean, he was pretty much going to start for me unless I decided to pull the trigger on Salah to Mbeumo and then Isak to Haaland because that's what I could have afforded. And I think it's important to address that, Alik, because and that's basically where the decision came from to bench Marmoush and then take a hit from Mateta to Cunha. I was kind of adamant that Mateta would get reduced expected minutes and just didn't really fancy him for this game, just how he'd been playing. And I mean, in terms of the outcome, the read was right. How right it was actually, in terms of the decision, how the game unfolded, again, do not know. But yeah, Cunha didn't exactly have too much. Maybe on another day, one of those half at best chances go in or he gets an assist from them. But it wasn't to be. Obviously gets yellow carded for the penalty and then hooked, then he gets 0 points. So lose 5 points there, lose 8 points on Palmer for minus 13 overall on the hits. Not great, not exactly what I wanted, but is what it is. And then just get the leak that Marmoush's bench and Haaland De Bruyne start. And I really was considering, I was like, I'm going to have no City attack for Southampton away. And loads of people are going to have De Bruyne and I won't have Haaland. But I was like, I just don't think it's worth it due to his potential minutes in 37, Haaland. And the fact that even when he was starting, he wasn't in the greatest of form, setting the league alight this season as he has done seasons gone by. So I was like, I'll leave it. And at least that worked out. And I enjoyed that on Saturday. And yeah, that's a wrap up of the team. As I said, not as many insights as per usual, given how many played on Sunday, but we can at least be up to date for everything you need. And yeah, not the greatest game week, but we bounce back and we go again. This would be somewhat ironic considering that I said I wasn't particularly interested in Villa assets for the rest of the season, and then they go away and win at Bournemouth. I sell Rodgers, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, should I get him back? Should I sell Salah for him? Should I get Ollie Watkins? I'll probably start Conservant next game week. But things changed fast in this game. I watched nearly all of it, and I didn't think they were unbelievable, especially going forward. Defensively, I was impressed just by the grit, the sheer grit, because I mean, to lose your player of the season, to have the results that they've had, I guess, recently, aside from the Fulham one, and to come back and put in a shift like that, I thought was really impressive, telling of the mentality, not just in the squad, but also the coaching and what they've put into them up here. So I thought that was brilliant. And then when you account for the fact that Chelsea and Forest drop points, they really fancy their chances. Now, not to mention how Spurs are playing, how United are playing, Europa League final, rotation, again, I imagine will come. It's televised on the lights. I think that's a big deal. Just increases atmosphere in the ground. It's just very good conditions to ride that wave of momentum that they gained from Bournemouth. And that's not discussing any of the football reasons, right? Which is kind of why I'm here in the first place. I mean, the stylistic suitability for Ollie Watkins, even for Rodgers to an extent. Spurs' fragility at the back, high line, and so on, and like Villa's threat in transition, so on and so on, right? So yeah, maybe I'll go here, especially with a weak Man United side in 38 to play potentially. They keep laying me down, United. Like, I keep thinking, okay, they might actually be okay this time around, but yeah, I should give up on that. Now, if I do go here, then I've only got one free, so I'm only going to go for one. I won't take both. Who would I go for? Well, I want to go for Ollie Watkins. I can sell any of my forwards. It would be a little bit tough. Maybe I'd sell Marmoush, but I would kind of want him for Bournemouth at home. Can I justify an Isak sell when he has Everton at home in 38 without Tarkowski? I don't love it, and I'm not selling Cunha. Not with Brentford at home in 38. I'm just not selling Cunha. Just too good of an asset. So if I do bring him in, it'll be hard to justify selling one of the other two. And it also means I won't have another free transfer for 38. If I can have two at 38, but like I can make 3 free transfers for a -4, and that just opens up so many routes to me without like the point deficit being too big. And you know, if I do need to chase in 38, then at least like I can do so in an easier fashion and kind of just back myself to go against the template in 38 without Aston Villa assets. So that is something I'm considering, because the options in 37 in general, like obviously there's Villa on the screen, there's no one else. They're just so uninspiring to me. Now, on one hand, I find them so uninspiring at the moment. So I'm like, just save it for 38. And there's always goals there. And someone will really need to win. And, you know, as such, maybe I can just bet on that. Maybe I can bet on, like, just as an example, Vardy scoring a hat-trick because it's his last day. That type of storyline. Not on him because he's got a tough fixture, but elsewhere. And I think, therefore, having the transfer from 38, for me at the moment, seems more valuable. And I might just bypass any Villa asset. Whether I do or don't, I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm more likely to get Watkins than Rodgers and just go and really play that upside, especially because I'm really, really happy with the midfield at the moment. I mean, I've got Bowen, I've got Saka, I've got Palmer, and I'm forgetting a really important one. Bowen, Saka, Palmer, Sarr, obviously, who's on the bench. I'm not going to edit this out, but how can I not think of the last one? Oh, Mbeumo, right. I just brought him in. So yeah, Brian Mbeumo. So that's that. And I feel like that's good enough. And I don't really want to take any of them out. Yeah, I could take out Sarr and play 3-5-2, but then I'd have to drop one of the forwards. So that's that. A lot of like what I do and like who I will start would depend on how I interpret Palace's prospects following that FA Cup final and their expected minutes. Secondly, Isak's prospects for the last two, because obviously he acts as a blocker, and he's got Arsenal away this game, right? That won't be easy. That's the battle for second place. Newcastle win, you'd have to back them to get second place then, right? You'd back them to beat Everton on the last day when that's quite a big deal. But I think for them, at least with the utmost respect, given where they've come from in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years. And do I want to sell him for that? Arsenal really up for it. So Newcastle, so on and so on. Cunha's expected minutes. I didn't really expect him to get hooked at 58. I was very surprised when I saw that. All of these things will be factored into the process and will develop as the week goes on. And as I say on the last slide there, the number one thing for me is just to have an opportunity in 38 to do some really, really good things and expose myself to significant upside. Last season, I did it. I think I took a -4, brought in Eze, and I went from like, I jumped like a huge amount of places, finished a good 20, 25 points above the safety score, right? If I can do that again, maybe in 38, that would be great. But naturally, I want 37 to go well as well. That's the wrap up on that. That is all she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. One thing I did want to add is if you are having a season where you are not best pleased with your rank, then there's always another one coming around come August, which seems really far away now, but isn't far away as it seems. We'll have another go. And if you end up winning it or coming 10th or like top 100, you really won't care about this bag season now. And you'll probably be quite grateful for it because you learned something. Or like maybe your luck was a little bit postponed and all the negative variance that you had this time around was paid back with interest next season. And a million and one good things could happen. So if you are having a bit of a rough season and not so happy with your rank, then do try at least to look on the positive side. I'm pretty sure you will be rewarded. But like I said, that's all she wrote for this one. And I shall see you on Wednesday for everything you need to know. If you enjoyed it, do drop a like on it. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week as always. Goodbye, guys. And thank you for all your support.